Badger fans, it's the community show the day after USC. Where are you at? How frustrated are you? Where was Wisconsin? Big picture. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always. I am Ryan Herrings, the host, and really do appreciate the community we built, all the people that interact. This is really the best part right now for me. Like the most enjoyable part is this community we built together, and ultimately we're all Badger fans, and we all are pushing in the same direction. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, I have a couple of big picture thoughts I just want to quickly talk about. And then every Sunday we've been doing community shows. So these are your comments off YouTube, Twitter, Discord, whatever it is. We throw them up there and we get what you're thinking, the pulse of the community on the show. But a couple of really big thoughts. My first one is, and this was off the Discord, so I didn't come up with this one. This is from Curtis, but everybody thought we would be 2-2 at this point. And for a second, ignore the optics of maybe how some of it's looked. Ignore the fact that you're down your starting quarterback. Wisconsin still has a pretty good chance here. Wisconsin should beat Purdue. Even the most pessimist, like Purdue's not look good. Wisconsin should beat Purdue. Wisconsin should beat Northwestern. You have a Rutgers game. Listen, Rutgers is going to be favored in that game. Rutgers has looked better than Wisconsin. Wisconsin has to go to Piscataway. But Wisconsin can beat Rutgers. There's a chance you have a runway here to win 3 Big Ten games, go into Penn State at home 5-2. That I'm telling you right now, there's a chance that happens. I know people don't want to hear it. I know I'm going to get painted as an optimist, but at my core, that's kind of who I am. But I think that can happen. I think there's a runway for that to happen. And then you're 5-2 heading into Penn State. Okay. That's kind of where we thought this team would be record-wise. At least that's kind of where I thought they would be record-wise. So there's a chance that still happens, right? Like, again, this is not the start of the season. And it's not been the first year and a half of what we wanted from Luke Fickell, but like, it's not, the world has not ended yet. I just, again, like, let's see how this plays out a little bit. A couple positives from that game I wanted to throw out there. I was confused a little bit. I saw a lot of people really critical. I actually thought this was our best front 7 pass rush disruptive play game we've had. I think I saw there were 16 pressures on Miller Moss. I thought Elijah Hills looked like a star for parts of this game. I thought they did pretty good. Miller Moss just made some plays. Listen, it's not going to be a great pass rush at any point this year. So if that's the standard by which you're holding it, that's where we got to get to. Like, it's still not good enough. You got to get a couple more sacks. I thought they harassed Miller Moss about as well as I could have hoped, though. I don't think that's the issue. And I've seen a lot of people frustrated with the defense in terms of, you got out schemed, you have to do this. I would love to have a talk on an X's and O's level, how you would have defended that USC offense differently if you're the Badgers with the pieces on this roster. Because they went zone several times where they're not getting pressure, and then Miller Moss kind of was able to pick them apart. Then they would run some zero blitz, and then Miller Moss found one of their 6'4" receivers against one of our smaller DBs. I mean, that happened to Hunter Wohler in the end zone, right? We went zero blitz, we got immediate pressure, and their guy beat our guy. Their receiver beat Hunter Wohler. And Hunter Wohler's great. But sometimes you need your best players to make big time plays. That would have been a big time play. We needed Hunter Wohler to make that play. Again, another one where they went fade to, I forget that one guy's name, but it was on Xavier Lucas. Xavier Lucas is a freshman. Their receivers are NFL guys. Like, Miller Moss made some absolute dimes. That first touchdown is one of the best throws you're going to see. I'm not excusing anything, but I thought the defense played pretty decently. They were hung out to dry a little bit. Couple turnovers. They were on the field for like 85 plays. I think if you put most defenses on the field for 80 plays, whatever it was, USC's probably going to get 450 yards. And USC finished with 38 points. Like, it's not a good enough performance, but I thought the wheels came off a little bit at the end. But I thought the pass rush looked better. A lot of alumni putting their thoughts on Twitter, and I've had a couple people ask me what my thoughts are on that. Here's what I would say. I think it's hard because this is, and I want to put a comment up here. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. This is from Giant Squid, not an alumni, at least as far as I know. But he said, still my team on Wisconsin. See, that's the thing. All the alumni want this to succeed as well, right? Let's start there. We're all Badger fans. We all want this to work. All of us want this to work. And there's certainly just people who thought it should have been working in a different direction or with different people, whatever. But ultimately, all of us want the same thing. If we start there, then we can have normal discourse because none of us internally are the enemies. We all want this thing to work. We're all Badger fans. This matters to all of us. This matters to the alumni who put blood, sweat, and tears into this program. This matters to former, when I say alumni, but former players. It matters to current players. It matters to fans who have dedicated decades to supporting this. It matters to everybody. This matters to all of us. So they have every right to be upset and frustrated. I do think at times, and this is the one thing I'd say, at times, I don't know, you got to keep it real on both sides because I don't remember a lot of alumni being frustrated towards the end of the Paul Christ era, right? When things were kind of falling apart to some degree and we weren't scoring, we were getting blasted by Illinois. Like, I don't remember a lot of alumni in those moments tweeting, you got to evolve or this isn't working. Like, so you just keep it real on both sides is what I would say. And I don't know if a ton of social media negativity right now helps the program, but I also 100% support people who want to throw their opinions out there because that's everybody's right. And everybody has the right to be frustrated and critical. I've been frustrated and critical, so it'd be hypocritical for me to say other people shouldn't. So I don't know. I guess that's where I'm at. I understand it 100%. I also don't know if those same people were as critical when we didn't have a recruiting department for 8 months, right? Like, I don't know if those same people were critical when we were losing to Ohio State and getting murdered. So that's the one thing I'd say. I don't know if it's been consistent. And then the last one is, I said coming out of this game, we're going to have some answers, right? One of the answers I said coming out of this game is we're going to kind of have a better feel for Braden Locke going forward. This was not a great marker for Braden Locke. Now, I don't think he's the guy you pin this loss fully on. Absolutely. But ultimately, you had a quarterback that went 13 of 26 for 180 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 50% completion rate. You didn't score in the second half. We have a quarterback problem at Wisconsin right now. And it's got to get better because you're not going to compete at the highest level of college football unless you figure out the quarterback spot. And right now we have a quarterback problem. I don't think Locke is necessarily the answer this year. I think he can be okay. He showed flashes. Listen to that throw to Vinny Anthony was a dime. That was a dime ball. Under pressure, led him. That was one of the prettiest pass plays this year. But then you come back on multiple occasions when you need to get third and longs to stay in the game, to maintain momentum. We just can't complete them because we don't have a cohesive passing game right now. And if you don't have a cohesive passing game, it's not all on the quarterback, but a lot of it's on the quarterback. It just is what it is. Like, that's just being real. And I don't know how you can come out of this game feeling better about the quarterback spot. Unfortunately, I wish I did. Like, I've been a big fan of both Locks. I like what they bring to the table on paper, but you're not seeing it execute on the field. So I think we're coming out of this not super confident about what we're going to see from Braden Locke going forward. Now, competition gets easier because athletes get lesser, right? No matter what you think of USC's defense, Purdue doesn't have those athletes. Rutgers has a good defense, but they don't have that level of athlete. Northwestern definitely doesn't have that level of athlete. So again, we have a runway here where we can win a couple games and maybe start building some momentum back up. All right, we're going to take a break there because, again, this is the community show. So we got a bunch of your thoughts, comments. We're just going to get into them. I just kind of took them in order off the YouTube page and a few off Twitter. So we're going to do that next on Locked On Badgers. Get into your comments, your thoughts, because it is the community show, and that's what we do every Sunday. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. FanDuel remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs, whatever you want to do on that side. As always, please do it responsibly, but FanDuel is awesome. And right now you get $200 in bonus bets if you have a $5 bet. That's $200 guaranteed in bonus bets from America's number one sports book. Well, you can do a lot with $200 in bonus bets, right? You can do a lot of parlay action, and maybe you can cash out on some nice hits. And then with those hits, you can buy some Badger swag. Maybe get ahead of the game and buy some Mabry Mettoyer rookie cards. There's a couple of those on eBay right now. I was eyeing one of them. I think he has a lot of tools, man. So maybe you can use some of those bonus bets, get on eBay, get you some Mabry Mettoyer swag. Head over to FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel is the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network, and a ton of stuff going on right now with NFL, MLB, and obviously we know college basketball and NBA are going to be starting pretty soon. That's over at FanDuel.com. All right, let's get your thoughts, community thoughts. Let's go. Let's knock some of these out. And obviously not the week any of us wanted, but we're here. Rain, snow, shine, sleet, whatever it is. Sticks said USC gifted them 14 points. Score should have been 7-38. Yeah, that's nonsense, Sticks. I mean, I'm sorry. That's a bad take. USC didn't gift them 14 points. Or at least if you're going to say USC gifted them the muffed punt, well, then Wisconsin gifted them a muffed punt and a tipped pick interception too. So now the score is what the score is, and the score decisively favored USC. You don't have to make it worse than what it was. I I had several people talk about the turnovers in the first half and how USC just wasn't playing great ball. That's a little malarkey too. Okay, Wisconsin forced two of those turnovers. Preston Zachman coming over, guarding one of the best slot receivers in the country and making a 50-50 interception. That's not USC gifting them something. That's a defensive play, right? Hitting Miller Moss in the backfield and forcing a fumble. That's not USC gifting anything. That's a great call by Tressel, a great blitz by Brown, and a fumble pickup. That's what those things are. The muff punt's a gift, but each side had a muff punt. So listen, USC beat us solidly. They were clearly the better team, but you don't have to make it worse than it is. Like, it should not have been 7-38. Serious drama, said a lot of sour grapes here. Y'all got absolutely dominated by SC in the second half. Give them some credit. Yeah, this is about the only USC comment I'll put up here. The one thing I'll say is Miller Moss is a tough SOB, 100%. And give USC credit. Lincoln Riley was ahead of Mike Tressel on third downs, but some of that was just Miller Moss and those receivers. And I don't know how you guard those guys. Unless you have like 2 or 3 NFL cornerbacks with size. I just don't know how you guard those guys. Miller Moss was throwing dimes. I give him a ton of credit because he's tough. He takes shots and he sticks in there. All right, this is from BVT. He said, I can handle losing this game. Nobody expected us to win due to the large discrepancy in talent. It's the way that we lost. We were handed a victory and just crapped the bed in the second half. Yeah, man, I think that's what a lot of people are frustrated with, right? You were up 21-10 with the ball. And whether or not your talent dictates you should be up 21-10 with the ball, you were. You were up 21-10 with the ball. Golden opportunity. And then what happened in the second half? Wisconsin was outscored 28-0 in the second half. Like, if you play 2 halves like that, you lose 56-0. That's how bad that half is. It was a train wreck of a half. It was a train wreck defensively. It was a train wreck on offense. Clearly a train wreck on special teams. You got to put that on the coaches. You got to put that on players. You got to put it on play calling. I thought there were weird time management things. I thought you had a couple mishandled balls. I thought Locke didn't look very good. He looked uncomfortable. The offensive line wasn't getting pushed. The defense wasn't getting off the field. You can't get a 4th and inches. You have a couple turnovers. Like, yeah, just da-da-da-da-da-da. It was a terrible second half, right? If USC came back, they scored, but maybe Wisconsin scored again to keep the pressure, and it's back and forth, and then you lose the game. Losing a heartbreaker with a big lead in USC would have been horrible, but it would have felt like you were right there. Again, you leave this game feeling like Wisconsin's not there. Like, Wisconsin is not on that playing field. And if you remember before the year, one of the things I said, it wasn't that I need us. It's not about me, but my expectations, what I was hoping to see this year, wasn't that we beat USC. I had us losing to USC. It wasn't that we beat Bama. I had us absolutely losing to Bama. It was, can we look like we're starting to belong on those fields, right? And once again, Wisconsin didn't kind of go up to that challenge. Once again, Wisconsin kind of looked like they didn't belong on the field. And I don't know how you can argue that when you lose the second half 28-0, you can't get shut out, man. You can't let USC march up and down the field. You can't make mental errors. The second or third game this season where Wisconsin has just had really bad unforced errors, a couple penalties, the muffed punts. So yeah, it's an optics thing. It needs to look better. The product needs to look better. And I think a lot of people. I had Brian Calhoun on last week, and that's one of the things he said. He said it's not even necessarily about beating SC, although we have to get to that point. It's about looking like you're in a position to beat SC. It's like looking like you can threaten them in the fourth quarter, and it just didn't feel like that, which is wild considering we were up 11 at the half. Bishop says fans are idiots if they had the last 2 games pegged as wins during this transition with a backup quarterback. And he went on to talk a little bit about patience with the staff. I don't think a lot of fans thought we would win these last 2 games. Nobody on this podcast predicted a UW win. I know that. I know Curtis picked SC. I picked SC. Justin picked SC. No, we all picked it closer, right? And maybe we're idiots for that. I don't think a lot of people thought we were beating SC. But again, I think it's how it looks. And you're right that it's still early. Patience. And that's one of the things I said in the opening part of the show. Like, I think people are acting like the season's over. The season's not over. Like, the season's not over. There's an opportunity here for, I hate to use the term get right games, because Wisconsin's not at the point in right now in this program where there's such a thing as a get right game. Wisconsin, every game is, you got to be dead ass serious about at this point. But they should beat Purdue. They should beat Northwestern. Uh, Rutgers is going to be tough just because of where we're at and the fact that Shiano has them on the up, and you're going to be going to Piscataway. But yeah, I hear you, man. I just think people wanted to see hopefully a little more progress. And by the way, maybe that's not fair considering you're on your backup quarterback. That's one thing that we don't talk a lot about, right? What is Braden Locke's record as a starter? Has he obviously the Illinois game, but Luke Fickell and Phil Longo have had a much better record with Tanner Mordecai or TVD starting. That's all I'll say. Now, that's not completely fair, right? Would Braden Locke have beaten Western Michigan and South Dakota? Probably. But it is worth pointing out the second year in a row Wisconsin's lost its starting quarterback. There is some bad luck there. Dexy says, I think every Badger fan knew the second Henry muffed that punt, the game was over. Defense played pretty well, in my opinion, all things considered. Dude, I'm with you, Dexy. That Henry muff punt, oh man, that was a killer. And I know Bama or USC muffed one too, so it's really just evening it out. But USC's better. Like, right, that's the thing. You needed a break to beat them on the road. You can't give them the break to even it out. And there's just no excuse for that, man. You can't muff that ball. Just don't get it. Don't run to it if you're not sure. At the very least, fair catch it. Like, that way you're not worried about getting hit, because there was a USC defender bearing down on him. So get underneath it, just fair catch it, bro. You got to catch the ball. Got to catch the ball. Massive mistake. I'm still. Whew. And I actually agree with you. So one of the first points I made on the show was I know people are going to push back looking at the numbers of third down conversions. I didn't think the defense played terrible. I thought the defense set this team up with a chance to win with the turnovers they forced in the first half. They gave them the lead. If the offense could have just got something going in the second half, that first drive, they could have put something together, given the defense some rest. I thought the defense played okay. I know the final stats are going to not fully bear that out, but in the context of the game, I thought the defense gave us the ability to go up early with those turnovers. And then they were just on the field the entire game. And we don't have a pass rush against a quarterback that wants to sit back there and throw to elite receivers. I thought they played decently enough. I put this one much more on the offense, in my opinion. I want to throw this up there because I got a couple comments like this, and I thought these were nice. This is from Craft Addicted Wendy. She said, USC fanatic year season ticket holder, huge compliments to the tons of Wisconsin faithful who surrounded us. First class fans, respectful, loud, well done. And again, I had a bunch of comments like that. Another one here from Island T. As a USC fan, I praise the Badger fans. You all shamed us, SC fans in LA. Your fans were amazing and we sucked. Y'all were louder than us. SC fans, what a shame. No shocker that Wisconsin traveled well to this one. I wish Rajiv was out there. I know a couple other people from the Discord were out there. I wish they could have given those fans the win. They deserved it. Traveling out there. Like I said, I got a bunch of compliments from SC fans talking about how great the Wisconsin fans were. So, I mean, that doesn't mean a ton when you lose like that, but it is unfortunate. JM said, saw this one live. Unfortunately, the story of the game is that the Badgers suck and the football program is sinking faster than the Titanic. There are no positives. And this is a familiar refrain. Again, we're one day at past. I don't think the program sucks. I know people are going to get frustrated with that. I don't think it's necessarily sinking. I think it's not. I don't think it's where we want it to be. I would definitely push back that there are no positives. Like I said, Elijah Hills looked great. I thought the pass rush looked as good as it's been. We have an incredible punter. And before anybody laughs at that, that's not like a backhanded comment. That's a real thing. Like Atticus Bertram was awesome. And we have developed a great punting game. Again, there's a lot of other things that need to get better. One of your first or second strengths doesn't want to be your punting game. I get that. But I do think there's positives. I think we're seeing flashes from some young kids. It was nice to see Dupree out there for a little bit. I thought Christian Allegro getting early reps was good. Vinny Anthony, I would like to see more reps from him. I think he showed out. He not just on that double move touchdown, but another one where he had a couple nice moves. He's showcased pretty good hands a couple times this year. It was nice to see Tyree Walker back out there. I do think there's positives. I really do. I know it's really easy to be incredibly frustrated right now. And I am too. Like, this isn't exactly where I wanted to be. But a lot of us thought it'd be 2-2. I don't know. Again, there's time here. There is time here. All right, let's take one more quick break for our friends of the show, and then just keep getting much more of your comments. Um, Today's episode is also brought to you by our incredible friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the number one spot to get all your tickets, whatever you need. Listen, if you don't want to be stressed out, if you're trying to get tickets and you're trying to save money and you're trying to save on logistical pain and you're not trying to plan months in advance, like Game Time is the best place to do all of that. And why would you want any of that? Who wakes up in the morning and is like, yeah, I'm going to grab my Folgers and then I want to spend more money on something and be stressed out about logistics and travel? That's my perfect day. That's not me. That's not none of y'all. So if you're like me, which is, like a normal human being, save money, skip the logistical pain, right? Go over to Game Time, download the Game Time app today, use code Lockdown, and you get a straight $20 back off. That's $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Get the tickets before, like the pictures of the seats before you buy, so you know exactly what it's going to look like. Snake the tickets without the stress over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. All right, let's keep going here. Bunch more of your comments. Again, this is the community show. This is from ND. The Wisconsin Football Badger program has been on serious for some time now and should be treated as such until proven otherwise. I thought this was interesting for this point. I think it's enough of us getting the big noon kickoff, like the spotlight game, the travel tour. Like we need, and I say we again, Wisconsin needs to earn its way back up into that tier. And I think for a couple weeks now, the spotlight's going to be off, right? You're not playing USC, you're not playing Bama. You got a couple games to get it right. But I think there's a good point here. Wisconsin hasn't shown out in a spotlight game in a while. Going back to the last few years of the Christ regime, it's been a while since we've had a big moment and we've played really well. It's been a lot of squeezing out ugly wins and then ugly losses and then some disastrous moments when the spotlight is on us. So I think this is kind of a decent point by ND, and I appreciate it. This is from Find Me. He said, Badgers are a small market team that can't afford to compete in the current salary capless NCAA. With two teams from LA, one in Chicago, one just outside NYC, it isn't getting better. And he went on to say the Badgers basically died with the NIL era. I disagree with this one so much because I think it has much less to do with the NIL era and much more to do with they just haven't found the right quarterback. And the Badgers have had opportunities to bring quarterbacks in. It's not like, first of all, this isn't that different than previous versions of college football, right? The Badgers never got the pick of the litter at quarterback, and people are like, well, they can't afford to buy one now. They weren't getting those guys in the recruiting era anyway. Those guys weren't coming to Wisconsin anyway. Like, they have to find a quarterback, and you can do that in this current landscape of NIL. You can. You just got to find the right guy and develop them. So I don't think it's NIL that's killed the Badgers because they've never been a have. In terms of like the top tier of college football. This disparity between the facilities and the coaches and the recruiting rankings has always been this way. NIL hasn't changed that. It's in some ways, maybe it's even helped some of the smaller market teams a little bit. Like Wisconsin has had a couple of the best recruiting classes they've ever had recently. Like this staff can bring in talent. Now they got to figure out scheme. They got to figure out how best to use it. They got to develop it. Those guys are still young. I disagree with this on wholeheartedly. Now, can the NIL department get better? Absolutely. Is it going to ever compete with the top tier college football programs? No, but we weren't doing that anyway. I am Mako says there's not a single NFL player at a skill position on an offensive skill position. No, there's not a single NFL player at a skill position on the Wisconsin Badgers football team. I think Pauling is. I would disagree a little bit, but I think the overall point is correct. There's not enough of them, right? I do think Pauling is. I think he has that skill set. I think he's hurt by an inconsistent passing game right now. And in a better passing game, I think he's a guy. He's going to be fifth, sixth. I don't know, somewhere. He's going to get picked. I think he's an NFL guy. Got to catch that ball though. But I do think he's an NFL guy. L says, imagine having every successful player in Wisconsin football or basketball history tell you suck at coaching. Seems like the Badger football program is crumbling in front of our eyes. Oh, that was Eilers over on Twitter, basically saying somebody sent him this quote. Imagine having every successful player in Wisconsin football or basketball history tell you that you suck at coaching. Yeah, and I talked about this on the first one. And again, everybody has the right to whatever opinion you want to have. And I don't think a lot of their criticisms are necessarily wrong. Like I've agreed with a lot of what players have said. Again, I would point out I don't think those criticisms existed necessarily when the program began its downward spiral. So I don't know. like it kind of feels a little bit late to the party in some sense, in some places, but yeah, it's not a good look. I think we can all agree the last thing you want in times of trouble, you kind of want to be able to circle the wagons, right? And that doesn't mean don't tell the truth, but it means there might be better ways to do it in points. And I think some players, I know some players are a little more under the radar with it. Some are more over the top, not over the top, but more just out there with it. I think both are fine. Again, I'm never going to tell anybody how to fan or what to think or what to say or where to say it, right? That's absolutely not my role. I do at times wonder, yeah, it hurts the program. I don't think it's a great look overall. It speaks to kind of where we're at in terms of identity standpoint, in terms of the confidence in the program standpoint. Those things do impact booster and NIL stuff, and it doesn't help recruiting. Also doesn't mean those points or those criticisms are invalid or wrong. So I'm kind of all over the map on this one. I understand that. Like I said, one of my bigger takeaways is I think some of these criticisms probably could have started a little earlier at the end of the last regime if we're keeping it real. So that's kind of where I might say some of that. Mark F says the call-in show on Friday should be the Locked On Liars Hall of Shame. Turns out USC is pretty good at football. Miller Moss is definitely really good, much better than Locke. Yeah, I've always liked Miller Moss. I said that. But yeah, I thought this game would be closer. I'll take that L. My receipt's out there. I thought it would be closer. I thought we would run the ball a little more effectively. I did think Locke would play a little better. I also thought Miller Moss would be a problem. Like I thought we would struggle getting pressure on him unless we blitzed a lot. And if we blitzed a lot, I thought he would just throw to his NFL receivers and we wouldn't be able to cover him. Turns out a lot of that was true. But hat tip to USC. They got the dub. They handled us in the second half, and it is what it is. I don't even know how to pronounce this. Egart shot said 28-0 in the second half is coaching. No more excuses. The players are there to win these games. I think it's coaching, it's players' execution. Listen, there's no coaching that Tyrell Henry hasn't gotten that says catch the ball, right? That there's always and I push back on when Coach Anderson comes on at times and he puts a lot of it on players' execution. I push back on that as well. And here I'm pushing back on some of it. Like it's not all coaching or it's not all players is my point. On that 4th and 1. And I don't like going shotgun. I don't like going shotgun on 4th and inches. I know other people have pointed out, well, players need to execute, players need to hit blocks. I agree, but it doesn't seem to work very well for this particular unit. So do something different. However, Joe Brunner blows a block on that play. It's out there on Twitter if you want to watch it. My point is it's coaching and players. It's both. It's never all or the other. And that's true if you're undefeated or you're winless. It doesn't matter. Like it's a combination of both. Ultimately, it all falls on the shoulders of the head coach because he's the captain of the ship and he's the guy that hires the coaches, that recruits the players. But Tyrell Henry catch the ball. Will Pauling catch the ball, right? Joe Brunner make a block. Like those things all matter as well, and those aren't things that should need to be emphasized by coaching. Those are players missing plays. My point is there's blame on both sides. This is from Michael. He said, Fickell hired Longo. Stop blaming Longo. This is all on Fickell. Fickell apologists need to stop. Fickell is the problem and needs to go. Yeah, I disagree. And Michael and I disagree on this a lot. And I love Michael. Like Michael's critical, but he brings his inpoints and his viewpoints, his insights into it. I disagree. Like I agree with his point on it being on Fickell. I said, like, I'm a Navy guy, and I pretty firmly believe in the captain theory of anything. Like if a Navy captain hits another ship, he's transiting a strait and he hits a ship. It doesn't matter if the captain's sleeping and maybe the nav or his lieutenant commander, whoever is manning the ship, the captain's going to take the fall for that because ultimately it all rests on him. Everybody on that ship has been trained by programs he's put in place. It's all on him, all on him. The same is true for Fickell. Like this is all on Fickell ultimately, but I still tend to think Fickell is the right guy and maybe Longo wasn't the right fit, if that makes sense. And I think it's still a little early on Longo, although some of what we're seeing is just frustrating. And I don't know what he's trying to do offensively. And some of the stuff in the game I talked about it, like you're throwing a swing pass to Jackson Aker on 3rd and 10. That's not going to work against USC, man. 4th and 10, you're throwing kind of a 6-yard slant. That's not going to work. So I'm a little frustrated with Longo for sure. But ultimately, I agree with Michael that it's all on Fickell. I disagree with him that Fickell is a problem that needs to go. I did not there. I still think Fickell can be the guy that runs this program. Tim Olson says everybody's a coach nowadays and wants instant gratification. How about some patience? Let Fickell build his program. Yeah, it's a fair point. No, I mean, That's a very fair point. He's going to get more than 2 years. He's going to get at least 3, at least bare minimum 3 years. So let's see where it goes. I think that's fair. I will say we live in an impatient era, and I will also say you're not taking over a rebuild program, right? Like I understand the criticism and the frustration from some fans because this is not a program that has had a losing season in 22 years. Like so, I understand you bring in a high-powered coach, a lot of money, revamp a lot of foundational parts of this program. You did expect better results than what we've seen so far, but Tim's not wrong. Like patience, you got to have some patience. Okay. Let's see if I got a couple more comments in here. This is from Red Arrow. I remember USC being one of the games the Badgers would win in the predictions of this podcast. That's false. Nobody on this podcast predicted Wisconsin would beat USC. Maybe Justin. I think Justin did probably, but for the most part, we all predicted USC. I think I was 30-20 USC. Again, I thought the game would be closer. I thought USC would win. Brett says, "Wake up! The coaching staff is awful." See, I don't think it is. I think Blazik's a good hire. I like Guyton. I like Mitchell with the linebackers, although they've underwhelmed. I like Whitlow a lot with the defensive linemen. I like Paul Haynes a lot at the cornerback spot. Grinch, we're not really sure. Letton, Spalding is recruited well. I still believe in Fickell. Like I still think this is the bones of a good coaching staff. Now, the longer this goes without us seeing some adjustments and some improvements, the harder that's going to get to square, like in my head with reality. But I still think there's a lot of good coaches on this staff. I truly, truly do. Okay. This is from DJB. I know Fickell's a defensive guy. How many more times are they going to go shotgun on 4th and 1 for him to realize there's no NFL team that ever does that? Oh, dude, I'm with you. I hate the 4th and 1 shotgun. And I know here's the thing. You can draw it up on paper, you can put it up on a whiteboard and say if this guy blocks this guy and that guy blocks that guy, sure. It doesn't seem to work for this group of players and how the coaching staff is coaching it to be executed. So regardless of how well you can drop it on paper, if it just seems to continue to give you issues, this happened against Bama last week too. It happened several times last year. I think you go under center, you put the tight ends on the line of scrimmage so you can't get that backside pressure, and you have a fullback, give it to Acre up the middle. I just think it's quicker, it's cleaner, you're less reliant on pulling tight ends. I don't know, man. I'm not a coach. I know people will disagree with me on this and just say, well, if Brunner hits this block and Ashcraft's a little faster and Acre does this. Sure, the defense knows exactly what's coming and we keep doing it and we're getting stuffed. I wish they would change that, and I agree. Akefo says it was like NFL receivers against high school D-backs. Plus, yeah, I'd agree. They had a massive advantage at the receiver spot, and we're not going to see receivers like that again. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Again, my big takeaways on this is I was actually impressed by some of the pressure we were getting early in the game. I did think we made Miller Moss a little uncomfortable as much as we could. I put much more of this on the offense. You can't go a second half and get shut out, and then eventually our defense, which isn't elite, got worn out. I'm not out on Fickell, although I am getting extremely frustrated at times with Phil Longo and what is going on with this offense. It's got to be better. And then I also think we have a runway to win a couple games here and maybe get back into the column of feeling good. On Wisconsin, thank you all so much for all the comments. As always, we read them, we put them up. Appreciate you all so much. On Wisconsin, we will talk later.